Well, a very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us. It's time now for the news review and introducing. Yes, we announced it, and she's here. Parliamentary aspirant for Hohoi on the ticket of the NDC, of course, Vera Hayibor. She is our guest this morning with us. Vera, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. And it's good to have you on board. Just curious, is this your first stint with us?
Yes.
On TV?
Yes.
Okay, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So we're going to get into the papers. Of course, we know that this segment is brought to us by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and I'll tell you a bit about them. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening, and all roads lead to them. Now, here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, they're at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. They're also in Kumasi, Kronoma Bohia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. Then there's Takrady Anaje Estate, Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama in Zima. Now, you can reach them on the following numbers: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, but just the start of the news review. Vera, so I have with me the Daily Graphic and the Business Finder newspapers. What do you have?
I have the Daily Statesman, the Daily Guide, and the Ghanaian Times.
All right, so let's make tracks with these papers and find out what they have to share with us this morning. And maybe before that, before we get into the papers, you're a new face for most of us. Let's talk about that. I always get excited when I hear of women aspiring to go to Parliament or to take part in any form of our governance structure. So kudos to you for even making that attempt.
Thank you.
Tell us about your peculiar situation. Hohoi is a bit of a tricky seat, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Tell us about why you even want to go for that seat.
One of the reasons why I wanted to contest, I don't know if you know the number of women in Parliament in the first place.
20 or so. Is it 20%?
40. We have 40 women in Parliament.
But about 20%, right?
Not even up to about 13.5. Because we have 20.
Here's why it's 20 on each side.
Exactly.
20
it
on the NDC side,
planned.
20 on the MPP
exactly.
side. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've always found that a bit of a weird coincidence.
Quite weird. So that's one of the reasons, because I believe we need more representation because there's a lot of women in the country. When you look at the percentage between men and women, we should have at least a bit of an equal representation.
Of course, women have always been more than men.
Exactly.
In the last few censuses.
But when it comes to parliamentary representation,
right,
we have very few of them. So it means our views are not being represented. So that is one of the reasons why I decided to join
women's
the race.
Issues coming to the fore.
Exactly.
That's part of why you're engaging in this endeavor.
Exactly.
Okay. What else?
I've always believed in social democracy, and that's the reason why I'm on the ticket of the NDC in the first place. And then the hallway is a peculiar place. As you know, it's the only seat in the Volta region that has been taken by the MPP. And I believe...
That's John Peter Amewu.
Yes. I am the right candidate to first take the seat from him and also transform the lives of the people. That's
going to be a Herculean task. First, you have to cross the hurdle of beating the other contenders in your own primary.
Exactly.
Who are these other people contending with you? I know there are a lot of men in the pool.
Five other people. 5 other people, and there's one other woman, and I'm the 6th.
So 3 men and 4 men and 2 women.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's 2 men for every lady.
Exactly.
In there. So even there's some competitive edge for the men. But what makes you think, Vera, that you can make the cut, first of all, to beat the other contenders, including the other woman on board, and go ahead to beat John Peter Amewu? I want you to start from that small group before I get to what John Peter Amewu has done in Hohoi and why you think you can, unseat him.
Okay, I've always thought that our body of politicking is quite different. Like, when people go about telling people what they can do for the constituency, they only touch on a few people give them something like, we have something like poster boys and girls, speak to them to influence the other people. They don't go about impacting lives. I think that the style I'm using now, okay, so I'm working on my skills. I'm giving the women, not just women, people in the community, I'm training them in different skills. Liquid soap making, powdered soap, antiseptic. I'm putting people into apprenticeship because I believe that whatever someone wants to do in future, you should give a glimpse of how the future looks like. So I'm giving the constituents a glimpse of what I can do for them when they assess me and they believe that, no, this is what we want. This is somebody we want in the constituency. We know she can develop the constituency. We know she can represent us fairly. Also because of my background, I'm doing PhD in law. I'll be a doctor in December, God willing.
Amen.
And so they know that I'm able to represent them fairly in Parliament. And so with the kind of style I have chosen to go by, I believe they can see the good intentions that I have and then give me the nod.
Let me just ask you these questions, and then we'll cap off the conversation on your aspirations as far as Parliament is concerned. And by the way, as a student of law myself, it's good to know that you're pursuing it at that level. Yeah. More power to your elbow.
Thank you.
Now, if not for this contest, would you be doing these things that you were doing for the people, helping them in soap making? Oftentimes, the reality is that when you see people doing these things, it is either they are knocking on the door of trying to lead their communities in some way, or they have aspirations for the future. Very rarely would you see instances where people do this out of the generosity of their heart, and then over time, the people rather come to them and say, you know what, you've done so much over the years, decades. Why don't you represent us? That's one.
Okay.
Then two, all these things you're promising, you're giving them a glimpse of what you can do for them in the future. But some will tell you, our current member of Parliament, and he's also done quite a number of these social interventions, John Peter Amewu, is already doing that. So what are you going to do differently? Okay. Those are questions I would like you to address. So if not for this contest, would you be doing all of this? And maybe just tied to that, it's on the same thread, just tied to that. Don't you think, even now that you're not a member of Parliament, you seemingly are making promises. This is what I can do. Don't you think we should find a way of moving our parliamentary leadership process from the promises? Oftentimes, the things parliamentarians or aspirants promise are not even things that lie within their purview. What do you make of that?
That's quite a number of questions.
So
let's start
from why you're doing this.
Yes, I've always been doing this.
You've always been doing this?
Yes. I've been helping people out. It's just that I don't bring it to the media front. So it's not
you're bringing it now because
I'm coming into the limelight. Actually, the reason being that I was already doing it. Then media outlets started calling me. They're like, oh, why not we interview you? Because what you are doing is quite different. We've not seen this kind of politicking, before. So I already help out people. In fact, I had a friend who said, Vera, what would be your biggest challenge when you become, a member of Parliament? And I said, my biggest challenge is to tell the world what I'm doing for others. Because I've always been the type that when I help people, I don't want
from the limelight.
Yes, I don't want others to know. And so this was one of the challenges I had. And but then when it came to the fact that now I'm going into a contest, it's now on a larger scale because I'm now having more resources to help out people.
So you had to put your best foot forward.
Actually, it's satisfying to see that I can actually help more people in this tangent. And two, these are not promises. I'm not promising. In fact, one of the reasons when I meet all the constituents, I told them, I don't make promises. Whatever I can do, I'll tell you now and do it. I won't make future promises. I'll build this. No. These are basic things that, in fact, everybody in the community should have access to.
Right.
And so they are not promises. There are developmental projects that I'm doing to impact lives. And then you did say that why not we move away from the politics of, promises and rather focus
a lot
on
of the things
representation.
Those who are in parliament now promised and en route, to getting into parliament were things that were out of their hands in the first place. We've got to the point where politicians must promise, roads and all of that. The parliamentarian doesn't. He's a legislator or she's a legislator. They make laws. They can lobby, but they do not grant these things to communities. Do you know why I'm asking you? It's a dangerous trend. Yesterday, I had 2 MPs, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, South Dying, Professor Kingsley Nyako, Kwadaso, in the studio.
Okay.
A lot of these members of parliament are spending 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 plus CDs. Depending on how big your constituency is, depending on the requirements.
Right.
And that is also fostering, in a way, I feel, corruption, graft in the system. They must get some resources from somewhere to meet those.
You know where the challenge is? I don't know whether it's a chicken and egg situation.
Which one came first?
Because, you see, our MCs, we don't vote for our MCs. The people vote for their MPs, and they feel the MPs, actually, we are accountable to the people. There is the major duty of the MP to represent the people, but there's also the oversight duty to bring development to the people.
Right.
And because they vote for us, or the people vote for the MPs, they know that they can always hold the MPs to account. But the MCs, we don't vote for them. And so they are not able to, but in actual fact, the MCs are the developmental agents in any constituency. So if we Ghanaians would agree to vote for our MCs, I think this particular issue will be resolved.
But this administration tried something in that respect at a point, and the president himself, pulled that back. But that was also because there was no support from your party's end. So you feel that moving into the future, we should get to the point where DCEs, MCEs are voted for.
There was a reason.
On political lines?
On political lines.
So
because
NDC,
even
NPP.
Even the assemblies.
That would just be another you just transmogrify what is happening in parliament to the grassroots and even destroy the system further. I don't believe so.
Even the assembly elections that we say is devoid of political ties, we all know. It's just that we are all pretending, but we all know that political parties sponsor assemblymen. You go to constituencies where it is MPP dominated, all the assemblymen are, sympathetic towards the MPP and vice versa.
Right. Interesting points you have made. We wish you the very best, but should you get to Parliament, when I have these conversations, I always smile in my head and sometimes I tell the representatives of the people here that Asema okay, Kaniyo, because Udruwa, some of us will remember and will hold you to what you've said.
Sure.
But very interesting points you have made on this. And I do agree that maybe, just maybe, we should get leadership at the grassroots elected, like in other jurisdictions in the United States, in the UK, they have them, so development can start from there. True. Parliamentarians are not meant for a lot of the things we see them doing or attempting to do.
You're right.
But let's get into the papers now. The Daily Graphic this morning, ensuring peace for accelerated development are concerned. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. More women unemployed than men. That's according to the Ghana Statistical Service. I'll give you a take on that. Media must cease excessive politicization. GJA on Press Freedom Day. Gifty Afenyidazi, former president of the GJA, was speaking at the World Press Freedom Day. Interesting developments. But the excessive politicization isn't it the politicians themselves who have taken over media entities and have created that tailspin of politicization. There's also MMDCs in acting capacity lawful. Supreme Court dismisses Dafiamekpo's suit, of course. That has to do with Roxton.
Yeah.
And there was a story there. So let's quickly do these. We'll start with the banner headline. So media outlets have been cautioned to guard against excessive politicization to consolidate the country's democratic gains. This was expressed by a former president of the GJA, Mrs. Gifty Afenyidazi, and the current president, Albert Kwabena Jumfor, in separate remarks as Ghana marks the 2023 World Press Freedom Day in Accra yesterday. World Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in 1993, following a recommendation adopted by the 26th session of the UNESCO General Conference in 1991. So my quick thought on that, yes, the media must cease excessive politicization for those entities that are engaging in them. But I say, when you have a proliferation of media outlets that are tagged to political parties, both the newspapers, the print media, and radio and television, even on social media, and they are clearly NDC or NPP. Sometimes, look, you pick a newspaper and you know the trajectory. One story, you can read a number of newspapers, and depending on where those newspapers stand, you can see the slant clearly.
Right.
Pro-government against the government. It is not news. It is propaganda. No, let's call a spade a spade. That is what we've been doing, and that is what we ought to tackle. Immediately, political elements started getting into owning media houses and all of that. This was bound to happen. So let's not be hypocritical and bury our heads in the sand. We know what the problem is. And some of these people who speak as well, and I'm not going to mention any names, some of them, they themselves, are tainted with politics. So sometimes when certain comments are passed, you cannot help but take it with a grain of salt.
Yes. I mean, he who pays the
piper
calls the tune. So where are the media houses getting their fundings from?
Good question.
Who pays them?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Because there are established media houses. I don't want to tout where I am, but we all know the trajectory, the history, versus those that just sprung up from whatever the source of money is and are doing this. So we know the issues. Let's get to them. But the other issue, Ghana has been taking a dent, a beating, as far as our press freedom ratings are concerned over the years. That is another thing we ought to be looking at as a country, because in one breath, we say the press is free. In fact, I found it egregious when Mr. President, at the State of the Nation address earlier this year, suggested that there was so much freedom of speech that members of the diplomatic corps, I think that was a gaffe. His handlers are there. I think that was a serious gaffe. I have engaged some diplomats behind the scenes, and what they told me even suggests that it was a very unfortunate statement. But anyway,
President.
That was Mr. President's choice. To say that even it's become so free that diplomats can air their views, but let's follow the trajectory. John Benjamin aired his views in the previous administration. He was scathing. Scathing. The likes of John Dumelo know very well. We've had a number of, I don't want to go into it, but I think it's very problematic.
Yes, because first, if we don't recognize that there is a problem, if the president himself does not recognize that there's a problem, then there will be no solution.
Do you think there's a problem?
Yeah, if we have dropped, we dropped from 60 to, is it 62nd? Yeah. It means
there's been a consistent
drop in the yes. So there is definitely a problem. But if the one who is leading the country doesn't even see the problem, then there will be no solution to it.
There are allusions to what happened to Ahmed Hussein Swale, for example.
To date,
and now we're finding out that, in fact, there is no process, so to speak, technically, ongoing as far as his death is concerned. And that gives a lot of cause for worry. Exactly. I've always said, Ghana, when I'm staying here, because yes, of course, this is where my bread is buttered. This is where I operate. This is where I find, some sort of that raison d'etre, as the French would put it. But if this space becomes unsafe for me, what does that mean? Someone was killed, cold-blooded murder. And I'll tell you this, in times past, have been a morning show host over the last 8+, almost 9 years.
Oh, wow.
It was on radio before, now I'm on TV. In times past, no one would ask me, oh, do you feel safe? Are you this or that? But today, I have my priest at church, I have my mother, I have people close to me asking,
do you feel safe?
Do they send you messages? Are you getting threatened? And the reality is, yes. I do get threatened. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes it is subtle, sometimes it is barefaced, but yes, I do. And if anyone wants to come to me and ask for text messages or stuff, some of them you just, or calls, and sometimes it's...
Do you feel
it's
safe saying this, though?
Oh, well, you probably don't know me very well. I have something called blunt thoughts. I don't want to say I don't care two hoots, but I am the type who would say it as it is and honestly damn the consequences. Okay. And I think we need
more
a lot more people like that. Because the number of people who reach out to me every week...
I'll be checking up on you this.
Are you okay? So let's put all of that into perspective. But having said that, let's also not denigrate. Let's also not forget that we've come very far.
You're right.
And that the press freedom we enjoy is something we ought to hold on to. It is not as though the situation were horrible, as though nothing were in place. There are some good things to talk about as well. So let's balance the act. But we're only saying that we can do better. That's the whole point.
You're right.
Now, more women unemployed than men, statistical service. I'll just wrap on that so you can do the stack of papers you have. I'm bringing that up because, of course, I know you're passionate about women's issues. So 2 out of every 3 of unemployed individuals are females, a survey by the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed. Also, 1 in every 4 youth are neither in training, in school, nor employed, pushing the rate of youth unemployment up from 19.7% to 25%.
Worrying statistics.
Now, the survey on the Ghana 2022 Annual Household Income and Expenditure Third Quarter Labor Force Report said in all, over 1.7 million Ghanaians, representing 13.2% of the labor force, were unemployed, with some unable to find jobs, unable to find food to eat, and were multi-dimensionally poor. I think last year there was a report that showed that, especially on the back of COVID, more people had slipped into poverty. So this, for me, is rather worrying, both for men and women, but especially for women, it's a precarious situation.
I mean, 2 out of 3.
Yes.
That is almost the whole female, that's more than half of the female population, the youth. And I've heard calls of, government making people go into entrepreneurship. But the question is, has the environment been created for people to embark on entrepreneurial, gains? Most people do not even have meals to eat, not to talk of the capital, to start a business. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, the Ghanaian youth are hardworking. Whatever they want to find their hands on, they want to work. They are looking for work. In fact, in my constituency, we have most of the youth now going into, agriculture because there's no work, anywhere for them to do. And that is how come the skills training program I introduced in the constituency, they are embracing it. If you see the very young women, I think SS students, because of the, the red, yellow, green system, you find some of them staying at home for 3 months. They come around just to learn the skills, start something to earn money. And so I will encourage the government to create that environment. If they are saying, I think a cap has been laid on employment in the, public sector.
Sort of moratorium.
Exactly. And the private sector that has to employ too, most of them are no longer employing because of the economic crisis, in the country. And so if you are saying this would let the youth or force the youth, to go into entrepreneurship, what arrangements have we done?
Yeah.
What preparations have we done towards the youth? I mean, a lot of the youths have ideas, brilliant ideas, but they do not have the capital, to start.
I always find it shocking when people say the youth are lazy.
No.
I've heard that a number of times. I mean,
I disagree with that
in every group,
statement.
you would have some people who are this or that. Yes, if you be a mensa woman, but I disagree.
Yeah.
I know a lot of young people. How many friends do I have? People who are even my seniors from university in my undergrad days, who have first class, second upper, hardworking, and wanting to. A lot of them, there's unemployment and there's underemployment, where you are not able to use your skill set. Let's say an architect, and he's doing something totally
he's working in the bank
or different. All of that is in there. A lot of people I know who were excelled in mathematics and other things, whom we could have used to develop our country. Some of them are doing. I don't want to say something so someone will say I'm denigrating their work, but they are doing things that are nowhere in their
totally
scope
out.
or bearing.
And now they are finding their way out of the country. Most of them want to leave, immigrate elsewhere where their skills can be appreciated. I mean, not just Ghana, the whole of Africa has a very young population. A very young population that even the West are jealous of, but we are not able to utilize. I always say that the day Africa will recognize that human resource is their biggest natural resource, that will be the day we will break economic crisis. We will break the economic tie. Because I believe that the human resource, look at Cuba. They don't have any natural resources. They invest in their doctors.
Very little.
And then export it, export it all over. Why can't we invest in our own youth? And then...
Good calls. Very good calls. There's also this one here, just for your reaction. NDC flag bearership. I'm right leader at right time, Dr. Dufour. What do you think going into May the 13th? That race, some have already called the race. Some say it's just a waste of time. But what do you think of Dr. Kwabena Dufour? Before you get into your
I believe that we are in a democracy and that everybody should be given the opportunity to...
Fair hearing. Huh?
Yeah, fair hearing. And so I mean, once he's in the race, whoever gets, elected knows that he didn't have it easy, I believe that if I'm in a competition and I go unopposed, it wouldn't be satisfying. Right. But when I go with other aspirants and I emerge the winner, if you realize the campaign has now changed, because there's competition. JM is going around the whole country, engaging with delegates and all that. For instance, if he was going alone, I'm not sure he would, interact a lot with delegates like he's doing.
So you feel it's good for the
It's good.
Right.
It's good.
Let's get into your stack of papers. In fact, I'll have you complete your stack before I come back in. So where are you starting from? The Daily Statesman?
The Daily Statesman. It says, focus on economic rights. Information Minister urges media. That's quite interesting that we have in page 2. What is he actually saying? Okay, so he has commended the Ghanaian media for their indispensable role in socio-economic development in the country, but he believes that there should be an increased focus on economic rights. I don't know what you think about this, but I think the media has really been speaking a lot about the economic, situation in the country and how...
Recently, there was that Cordeo bit. And
exactly.
Others came in. The fact, and me, like I said, I say it bluntly, especially in media, I think I saw a post by someone some time back talking about the fact that a hungry journalist will not give off the best. Journalism it comes with a certain integrity, and some of us have taken pain to try to toe the middle line, to not allow any influence. And that is why, interestingly, in the Mahama administration, when we're going hard on certain issues, we're tagged.
Okay.
Under this administration, we're going hard on issues, and now we're tagged. It at least paints a picture that we found that middle ground.
You're right.
But when most of the journalists are ill-paid in the country, and it's not something we can hide from. Yeah. It is a reality.
You're right.
Go to most of the media outlets, especially these ones springing up and all of that, and ask people how much they are earning. It's a pittance. How do you expect that person to keep body and soul together, put clothes on his back or her back, and still do the job with integrity? Those are the problems. So
how do we resolve those issues? I mean...
Well, resolving it will take quite a number of factors. Some have said, for example, that there should be a professional entity for journalists in terms of the practice of journalism, so that you don't just get to call yourself a journalist simply because maybe you're on radio or TV without certain requirements. Maybe that could be a starting point, so that there are some qualifications, and coming with the qualifications. For example, a chartered accountant. There are certain minimum fees you would pay a chartered accountant, for example. Do you get it?
Yes.
So if you qualify, then look, the starting grade or starting point is this. If you can't meet that, it means you can't recruit the person. Maybe these are some of the options
But I have another question. Looking at the background of the information minister, were you expecting him to touch on this on, the World's Day of Media, or you expected him to touch on other worrying issues like, the media, we dropping in the media space from, 60 to 62?
Well, he addressed pertinent issues. I wouldn't take that away from him, Kojo. But yes, and I'm not surprised because usually it doesn't speak well for us. So those are things that government operatives would avoid.
Okay.
I don't find that surprising, and I wouldn't hold that against him. Really, I wouldn't.
Okay. National Cathedral deflates bombshell claims. You know the story of Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa. He's been digging deeper and deeper into the, I don't know whether to call it a scandal, the National Cathedral scandal. And it's on the page 2. And it says, the National Cathedral Secretariat has described as unfortunate the pettiness of the MP for Northton, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, over the construction of the cathedral project. I think recently he was in the US to, find out about some other issues that were happening there. He said there was another trustee board that did not include any of the trustees that we had in Ghana. And the National Cathedral Secretariat is saying that that other board is not a branch, to the one here. I don't know your thoughts on that, on that issue. They are saying they are separate entities. One was set up to raise funds in the US for
this National Cathedral thing, the entirety of it, I mean, I am not so... Yes, all of these are pertinent issues, but I have said time without number, I have never hidden my views. That's one thing about me. If you know me, you know what my take is on major matters. The National Cathedral, I am very Christian, very Catholic. Those who know me will know that I am a staunch practitioner, but at the same time, I feel that if the people are going through what we're going through now,
economic crisis,
it is not the time for us to do this. Again, it's taken quite a length of time.
Yeah.
For example, the Notre Dame was put together over centuries.
Yeah.
Most of these, in fact, even the one in, is it Washington, D.C.?
Rome was not built in a day.
It wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
I feel if we had made this more national in scope rather than partisan, we could have said, okay, let's do this. It's a futuristic project.
Yes.
At least we've done this, and bit by bit, we'll put it up. And there could have been some consensus, some agreement that as a people, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
I feel that is the very root of the problem this project is facing.
I totally agree.
And recently, I've heard some stalwarts, I've just forgotten whom, but many people have said, this thing, first of all, my problems, it's ballooned from about $100 million to over $400 million.
Exactly.
That is already problematic, especially in our economic situation. I have my problems with whether that project will be completed before the end of 2024.
I doubt.
Because when that happens, it just becomes another elephantine project. You don't complete it. If a different administration, even if the MPP is retained, someone else may say, that is not I don't want to continue with it. Then what happens to taxes, the people's money that has been invested in this? Because mind you, we were told it wouldn't be taxpayers' money. Exactly. But now we are seeing
taxpayers' money being used.
So those are my concerns with the project.
I think the project needs to be, anyway, with the IMF requirements, I doubt they'll be able to continue with this because these are some of the social projects we've been asked to cut on. So
let's quickly look at some other stories. Okay. The Daily Guide is also there.
The Daily Guide. It's official. Baumia joins MPP race. Amend laws against journalists. I think you'll be interested in this one.
I definitely will.
Parliament considers CJ nominee. And then Joe Garte storms Ahafo region for votes. Another man kills lover. I don't know which one you would want to delve into, but...
you choose.
Parliament considers CJ nominee because it's a female I'm seeing here. So I'm excited already. And her name is Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki. I don't know, is it Tokonu?
Yeah.
Okay, Tokonu, page 3 of the...
And we've been talking about this for a number of days now. The third in some, what? Is it 17 years?
Yes, third in 17
Georgina Wood, Sophia
Kufu, and now here. So it's I would say it's a great achievement for the women.
Definitely.
Yes, and I think we'll go on to the next. Express opinion on...
So that's the Ghanaian Times you are at now?
Yes, the Ghanaian
Times.
Times
Newspaper.
Express opinion on matters fearlessly. I think the media has taken over today's headlines.
Yeah.
Express opinion on matters fearlessly. Justice AJ charges journalists. And I'm sure you have taken that charge already. More than 900 Ghanaians die from prostate cancer annually. That's worrying.
Very.
That's worrying.
And that's why we've been talking about Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. I'll be telling our audience or our viewers more about that at the tail end. But I do my check every year.
Oh,
yes.
Congratulations.
I've not done it yet this year, I confess. I usually do it around my birthday, so I'm about a month plus late.
Okay, okay. Then you should encourage other men to do that.
Oh, yes, I definitely do. Okay. I do it on the show consistently.
Good. That's good. But 900 Ghanaians, no, that's too much. I think we have the same story from the Daily Graphic here. Government celebrates media, urges greater focus on economic rights. Mr. Kojo upon Nkrumah.
Yeah.
So we'll touch a bit on the page 12 again. So,
owing to time, I think that will be our final story.
Oh, okay.
We can wrap.
Okay. Oh, have you touched on this?
I'll just read the headlines so you can do that story.
Okay. Express opinion on matters fearlessly. Justice AJ charges journalists. He says that indicated that journalists have an obligation to fearlessly express their opinion on matters that promote development in the country. According to him, situations where media practitioners who expose wrongdoings of some members of the public are intimidated by politicians must be condemned at all levels. And I totally agree with him on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. That brings to mind Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng and some of what has happened in recent times. Well, a very good morning to Prof, if you're watching us this morning. The Business Finder, Ghana bags $3.5 billion from non-traditional exports in 2022. EcoBank launches double salary promo reloaded, and Newmont Africa's reliable development partner. All of those stories in the Business Finder newspaper. Vera,
yeah,
it's been good having you join the conversation this morning. What are your parting words as you take leave of us?
I want to say that you should look out or watch out for me in the political space, because I'm coming in with a new force, with
when you
new
said you were
ideologies.
coming, I almost thought you were going to say you were coming like a kite. Okay.
You know, I had already made a statement that I'm the checha fly that will bring down the elephant.
Oh.
Yes, so you should look out for the honorable checha fly when the time comes. But I believe I'll bring in a new, era into our political space. And I'm urging everyone to support me and push me so we can have at least 1+ more women in Parliament.
That is if the other women are retained. That's another.
Oh, yes, that's quite interesting.
So Vera Hayibor is contesting. She is a parliamentary aspirant for Hohoi. So we have a political mosquito, and now we have a political tsetse fly. All of them in the NDC. But that's how we cap off the news review. Don't you forget, like I mentioned earlier, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, all roads lead there. They are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. You can locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, in Kumasi, Kronoma Boyhia, behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Zima. Call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But right now, let's serve you sports. There's been so much happening, you don't want to miss a beat on the local scene, on the international scene. Sports up next. Stay.